Solution, a private, God-centered oasis in the Tennessee hills that offers a pleasant escape. Neal Creek Retreat, an 18-acre farm in Belvidere, Tennessee, is the site of my vision for the future, a modern-day Garden of Eden. I believe marriage was ordained by God, and the best way to cultivate marriage is to bring couples into fellowship with the creator of marriage and the creator of mankind. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God," implying that happiness involves communion with our creator and not just simply meeting our physical needs. With the help of my family, my goal is to provide an uplifting experience for couples that is encouraging and soul nourishing by fostering an environment that reflects biblical principles and ideals, especially regarding love and marriage. We're confident that we can pull this venture off based on our vision, commitment to improving lives, and most importantly, the blessing of God. Our aim is to help save marriages and enrich families, in addition to supporting organizations that are dedicated to preserving marriage. Neal Creek Retreat will be a tribute to God, marriage, and family. Our desire is to have our guests experience a great experience of a lifetime and come away uplifted and encouraged and changed for the better. Thank you for listening.
I think I'm the first judge to ask a question, Linda.
All right.
One of the things in your presentation today, and then your video and your written presentation for the plan was, I did not see any sort of timeline or perhaps a constraint listing for, I know you said you were going to say change over some of the utilities for the structures and so forth and so on. Do you have any ideas about your timelines, your possible constraints or issues concerning utilities or anything like that?
I do. I just recently paid the fee to have temporary electric service hooked up with the local utility company. So that's in the works, and that should be done within a couple of days. And we've already hired a contractor. So he's waiting on the electric to be hooked up so they can use their power tools. Because if you noticed in the report that I did, the property currently is off the grid. So the only electricity is provided by solar power, and it's probably not enough to run the power tools. My hope is to have it up and running in June. My husband doesn't necessarily think that might be realistic, but that's my goal, June of this year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Linda, for your presentation. A pretty novel idea. My question is, which, when dealing with marriage, and I guess using my own experience, going on 21 years of marriage,
wow,
there's certainly there's a lot of issues per se. And, while the retreat per se can give you a weekend away, are you attached to other nonprofits or churches that would provide a pipeline of potential attendees that would kind of give you a consistent source of revenue? How would you fill that pipeline and make sure you're meeting your revenue targets to run the facility?
What my goal is to reach out to local organizations as well as state and out-of-state organizations, churches, marriage counselors. We have an organization locally called Duck River Baptist Association, and then you're probably familiar with the Southern Baptist Convention, a very large organization. What I want to do is create communication network with pastors. I'm already a member of a local church, and pastors are an excellent source, marriage counselors in the area, organizations like the Southern Baptist organization. So what I will do is contact them, let them know what I'm doing, give them some information, and encourage them to refer couples to our retreat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Muted.
Yeah.
Am I next?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Thank you so much for your presentation. I actually have an Airbnb as well, and I'm a big fan of being able to support locally. So couple of questions. what is your projected gross profit per year? You talked a little bit about it in your video, but tell us again.
Okay, my projected gross profit is going to be about 20,000 a year. It's not going to be anything just dramatic and not necessarily life changing. I think the business will support itself and then some, but that's what I'm projecting in the beginning.
Will you be the one primarily taking care of the property, cleaning it, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be managing it, doing the bookkeeping, doing the taxes. I'm working on getting that set up with QuickBooks. I'll be trying to do the cleaning. I may have to hire some help with the cleaning.
Gotcha. What do you know the average occupancy you're going to need to make that 20,000?
Well, just a conservative estimate that I came up with is if we rent the property for 2,000 per stay, let's say for a week, 26 weeks out of the year, and that's only half of the year, it would draw in 52,000 of revenue. Of course, that's before expenses, before taxes, and that kind of thing. That's the goal.
All right. Matt, you're up next.
Sorry. How do you differentiate yourself, as far as the marriage programs you offer from, kind of like your business plan? It kind of seemed like an Airbnb where you get a bottle of wine and a Bible. What do you have beyond that that's going to draw people to that, the marriage counseling or, the program?
Right. Probably we will have things on our website that talk about marriage and statistics and things like that, and what helps build up marriage. The property itself, we will have things, decorations, decor that reflects biblical ideals and principles. It might be Bible verses. It might just be encouraging quotes, things about marriage, things about strengthening marriage. The thing that really sets our place apart, I believe, is that it's completely secluded. You can't see any neighbors. It's surrounded by hills. You've got a creek that runs completely through the property. The balcony on the house and the cottage overlooks this creek. You can hear the sound of the creek while you're out on the balcony. It's just a peaceful
time. Thank you, Neil Creek Retreat. Next up is CC Solutions. CC Solutions, when you're ready.
All right. Greetings, everyone. We are CC Solutions, and today we are going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is one of the leading global problems when it comes to sustainability. We live in a world where the current model for consumerism is make, take, waste. However, we need to shift to a circular economy, a conscious model of make, take, recycle, and then make again. The difficulty of recycling comes from the physical condition of the plastic waste over time. Impurities such as the Earth's elements and commercial waste accumulates in plastics, making it difficult to remove. Current methods to remove these impurities are energy intensive, not environmentally friendly, and not efficient. Our product is designed to bring an easier solution to this difficult problem. Introducing Omnia 360. High performance capability, environmentally friendly ingredients. This biodegradable, reusable solvent can clean large tons of plastic efficiently. Our current partner, Eastman Chemical, is looking to use Omnia 360 as part of their chemical recycling technology to achieve their goals in sustainability. Partnering with a company that is a large advocate for sustainability allows us to use their resources to get the word out about Omnia 360 and why recycling and adopting a circular economy mindset is important. Along with selling Omnia 360, we are selling a mindset that grants one's ability to think critically about how you can take the world around you and use it for other purposes. From the auto industry to food to even pharmaceuticals, there is potential to find solutions for sustainability in all these fields, which puts us in a position to making a sustainable, greener, and innovative tomorrow. So, who's ready to join the Omnia 360 mindset?
Great, thanks CC Solutions. And Muggsy, we're gonna get started with you on questions.
Well, great pitch. I was a little confused on the video and your paper. One of your partners, I guess, had done an internship with Eastman and taken an existing product from Eastman and was using it now as an Omni 360. So somewhere in there, there's a chemical change. And the slide that you presented in your video, it looked like household cleaning items as Omni 360. So I lost the connection back to the recycling piece. I'm assuming, and this is always where you get in trouble, that your Omni 360, since you're using things that could be recycled, you would then knock off the Windexes and the polishers, et cetera. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how that circle, how it evolved, et cetera? It was just a little bit, that handoff was a little bit of a fumble for me, at least.
Yes, absolutely. So to go back to the original kind of beginning of a circle, and not entirely sure where you would start in a circle, yes, you are right. Eastman currently has a product that is called Omnia. The Omnia currently is for the intended use to be used as an all-purpose cleaner for everyday use when it comes to cleaning topical, such as tables, or being able to clean off windows. The inspiration from how Omnia is how it was made, being biodegradable, environmentally conscious, being one of those low volatile, not as dangerous all-purpose cleaners, we were thinking, okay, how can we take this idea of how it was made, upscale it to where it can accommodate to clean large plastic feedstocks, bringing in the recycling component of a circular economy. The idea of a circular economy, as I mentioned, is this adopting a model of make, take, recycle, and make something else again. The issue with that model is for us to be able to make again, we need to be able to recycle. With those recyclable materials that are dirty, we need to be able to clean them. Being able to take Omnia, adjust its chemical composition to accommodate to be able to clean at a much larger scale is the goal here. With the intention, yes, currently it's being able to clean at a smaller scale. We want to be able to clean at a much larger scale. And if it were to be run through giant unit operations to be able to clean these large plastic feedstocks, Omnia 360 will be able to withstand any sort of the mechanical issues when it comes to cleaning at that large scale.
All
Okay,
right, on to Leanna.
Oh, thanks, Andre. Yes, one of the, again, back to your relationship, I know there was an internship with Eastman and everything. I did not, I saw that in your presentation, but I didn't quite understand your relationship with Eastman, AKA, if you're looking at it from a perspective, are they funding part of your research? Will they just be involved in testing, or are they in some way giving you some sort of a resource to figure out what the process and the product is? Or if you could, please expound on that.
Yes. So currently, I am involved in a capstone group project, and the relationship that we currently have with Eastman is we are talking with an employer there who is in charge of their circular economy initiative, trying to create a capstone project from a certain problem that is going on with trying to recycle was one of their big issues. More so, how can you clean the plastic feedstock? And so the current relationship we have with them, not so isn't funding with monetary donations or being able to be provided resources. More so when we're going through our capstone project, it's okay, what is the current issues that they're having right now? Can we provide more information so when we carry out the capstone project, we can start setting parameters and manipulating variables in order to solve the problem that they're having, which again is trying to clean this large plastic feedstock. And that's how the relationship has been built from then on.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for good measure, and thank you for your presentation. And so I guess tying back to the earlier questions, just what is what's the current state of your 360 solution? Where is it in the developmental cycle? If it's ready, then have you tested on that larger population of feedstock for use in the circular economy? Just can you touch on where you are in the developmental cycle, and if it is ready, what's been the results in terms of its use for bigger projects?
Yes, thank you for your question. So when it comes to how Omnia 360 is actually developing, right now we're in a proof of concept state where we're trying to figure out, okay, on a much smaller scale, how does Omnia, the cleaning solvent in itself, operate on a smaller scale versus other cleaning solvents, such as what you would imagine being acetone, isopropyl alcohol, vinegar, baking soda, those, whenever you want to make DIY cleaning solutions, how does it stack up against those? And currently being able to compare Omnia directly to these other solvents, results are still being in the process of trying to figure out how they stack up against it. But in the proof of concept state, that is currently where we are right now. And if Omnia does prove to stack up against these other natural cleaning solvents, then the next piece would be, okay, how can we upscale it to just from laboratory setting, maybe something smaller, such as a size of a washing machine? How can it stack up if we were to add more volumes of Omnia?
Time, CC. Thank you, CC Solutions. Next up is LifeStir. LifeStir, when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bailey Kaufman, and I'm a sophomore marketing major here at Tennessee Tech University. 73 seconds. Every 73 seconds, someone is sexually assaulted by the use of a date rape drug. 1 out of 6 women and 1 out of 10 men are sexually assaulted in their lifetime, and only 20% of victims even report to law enforcement. After looking at these statistics, I was compelled to make a change. To combat these statistics, I created LifeStir. LifeStir is a personal safety tool to detect date rape drugs in drinks. It's designed to mimic an ordinary coffee stir, but unlike a typical stir, it's packed with technology. Each LifeStir is infused with a chemical indicator of 1 inch on both sides. Each LifeStir, regardless of which side you place it in your drink, it will react with the drug and change from black to white to alert the user that their drink has been drugged. Through more research, I would like to expand the drugs that could be detected. LifeStir will be manufactured to be disposable and discreet and as effective as possible. LifeStir will be sold directly to bars, restaurants, college campuses, and environments where drinks could be served around a mass group, producing a larger volume in sales for these companies as they would buy in bulk. By doing this, I would reach more users and allow revenue to be made faster. As the same way companies now provide masks for their customers to have a safe environment, LifeStir could easily become a similar trend and have the same effect. My long-term goal with LifeStir is to have it available at every place that serves a drink around a large group to ultimately create a safer world. Unlike its competitors, the stir is placed and stays into the drink instead of having to put a drop from the drink onto the product. This is important because if a predator sees the target is aware of the drug, it could place the victim in more danger. LifeStir is a safer option than a straw detection tool because no contaminated liquids could flow through it. LifeStir would be cheaper to obtain and more convenient. I have a strong passion to create a product that will change the world and become a social norm, to have a product in everyone's lives. LifeStir would be a positive force by providing every person, regardless
Time. Stop.
Thank you, LifeStir.
All right, Anna, you're up with questions.
Thank you so much. I'm very interested in your idea. So as a coffee shop, we're used to paying not a lot of money for a straw. So talk to me about what's your cost. I think it's a great idea that you market this to bars. I kind of thought at first it was going to go towards like us carrying those straws around, but I kind of like the idea of marketing it to the restaurants and bars. So talk to me about cost of that. Do you know?
Yes, thank you. So right now I'm still in research with being able to figure out exactly what chemicals would be in the stir. And those are definitely my plans after this competition to be able to get grants to fund my research. But definitely this is a big question that most people ask. Why would I not be just selling it to individual consumers? That makes sense because most bars and restaurants, this is definitely a new product. And you looking at each individual stir, you are used to paying 0.01 for each stir. And I believe that if I can sell directly to the bars, that will one, advocate for the problem as a whole, but it'll also reach a bigger group. So right now I have it to be $9.30 for LifeStir to produce a batch of 1,000 stirs, and we could sell that to, I'm thinking right now it would be $20 in bulk for each bar or restaurant. And looking at long term for this, I believe that it can drive traffic for these businesses. I know in a college setting, most people will choose a place that they feel safe to drink at rather than having to look over their shoulder every single time they place their drink down. So I think as a distributor side, you would be able to market that and say, my company allows you to drink safely. You won't have the fear of being drugged while you're at my restaurant or at my bar. So I believe that could drive more traffic and be a win-win for LifeStir as well as the distributors we plan to sell to.
All right, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I guess I have a multi-part question. First, how do you think you would combat, I guess, like the trend of cities, states, even countries, banning disposable straws and those type of materials? And then also, how is your straw differentiated from a regular stir so that as soon as you touch one that it's one that's going to have some type of color indication?
Thank you. So I'm a big advocate for sustainable living. I personally do not use plastic straws. I always either have a metal straw in my purse or try to find a paper straw if a restaurant has that. Looking into cost, it is right now it is going to be more expensive to produce something that is sustainable and not and reusable. But I think looking at the legal issues of it, it would definitely be safer to be able to have one use of each stir. Hopefully in the future, I would love to have each one to be environmental friendly, and looking into how it is different from a normal stir. At the very top, it has a circle, and then it'll have obviously the stir and then a little ball at the bottom. And it has the logo of LifeStir, and it looks kind of like a circle and then two lines, which represents life. So it'd be life and stir. So it definitely, it's not just a normal stick. It'll have a circle at the very top.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So just quickly, you chose Xyrem and ketamine. Xanax is the one that's more common and easier to get. So when you're building your product, because I'm assuming you haven't built your product, you're trying to build that research right now. You may want to have a bigger footprint. Could you address that for me?
So I definitely, through research in the future, I would like to expand it to detect as many drugs as possible. I'm very aware of Xanax being a drug that is very common with the use of a date break drug. And these drugs are obtainable for almost anyone. You can get them faster than some drugs. So I definitely would like to be able to expand my research to that too. Most of the products right now that are in research or on the market do detect GHB and ketamine. And I think in the future, my product could definitely be different from competitors if I had a detection for more than just two drugs. The GHB and ketamine are two of the most common, and I know there are more common drugs that need to be addressed as well. And hopefully through research, I'll be able to figure out all of those.
Hi, Bailey. This is Leanna. One of the things that, in doing a little bit of research myself, some Google searches and so forth, I know there's several competitors out there for different types of products. Have you done research against those products as far as from a revenue perspective or anything like that?
Yes, all of the products right now cost up to $10 to $75. So there is.
Thank you, LifeStir. Next up is Pure Legacy, Future Innovators. Pure Legacy, when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Brennan Pierce, and I'm the CEO of Pure Legacy. I'll be presenting to you our Future Innovators business branch. The lack of Royal County STEM events, STEM centers, university to local school partnerships for clubs, and lack of professional development for STEM education professionals only create more issues with the low funding for Royal schools that has created a huge desire by the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network and the Tennessee Department of Education to seek out partnerships to fill those gaps. Future Innovators is already making headway to change this with 2 radio interviews, 2 news articles, a TV interview back in February, and another TV interview coming up on the 23rd for our first downtown STEM event in Elizabethton, plus placing as a Tennessee regional finalist for the Global Student Entrepreneurship Awards competition in Tennessee. We are showing the need, desire, and abilities for anyone to be a part of our movement to develop skill sets in young students for STEM education. This need for a growth in STEM skill sets at a young age comes from how 1, STEM occupations is the 5th fastest growing industry in the South. 2, that 2.4 million jobs in STEM occupations went unfilled in the US last year. And 3, over 100,000 STEM teachers are needed in the US to match the need for STEM occupation growth. Now, as Tennessee STEM Innovation Network said, we are truly unique because we are hiring college students to provide private STEM tutoring, as well as hosting STEM events, in which we have already raised over $3,000 in funding for since August of 2020. We have 3 partnerships to begin hosting weekly STEM events in a government housing community center, a downtown location that provides services to the community, and a coffee shop in my hometown in Elizabethton for ticket sale events. We accomplished all of this as well as the placing as a Tennessee regional finalist in the Global Student Entrepreneurship Awards competition on February 5th since August of last year. Future Innovators branch was placed under Pure Legacy when we had to make a change. STEM education is really needed. So I invite you to take the journey to see how we can provide more services for kids in Royal areas.
Time. Great. We'll get started with Lamont on questions.
Thank you for your presentation. A couple of questions. And so just trying to understand your target. I know there are other partnerships that you're working with. Do you have an intended target age or grade level that you're working with? And would the curriculum be ad hoc based on the student's needs, or would it be standardized to address a specific age or grade range?
So currently we've been focusing on about roughly the age of 5 up to 8th grade and incorporating in high school students to help work with college students to grow their skill sets. On the private tutoring profit side, we focus on the specific needs of that child for STEM education, but we don't focus just mainly on math and science because a lot of these Royal schools have that. What they don't have is the engineering side, the electrical engineering side. Now, in the nonprofit side for community events, we focus on actual real life issues with STEM education. For example, environmental sustainability. The first project, so we have a downtown event, May 7th, is just going to be standardized to get people involved. The week after that is the first event in the government housing location. We're going to teach kids how to build a sustainable agricultural water system to where it waters plants, and then build on that into the next week to show them how to wire in small LED lights with small solar panels. So instead of just doing simple projects that are fun, we're also incorporating videos that show those projects on a large scale to students, allowing them to see the potential of future jobs, to show excitement for them to understand more of like what they enjoy, but then also creating an environment to where they can do it individually and work on teams.
All right, Anna, you're next.
Hey, Brandon. Talk to me about how many tutors that you have currently.
Currently, we have 2. We started servicing one child in Nashville before I moved to Knoxville there. That was part of our introduction research to see how that communication would go. COVID has kind of caused a little bit of a halt in that. For example, was reaching out to Northeast State in my hometown. And for their professors, due to COVID guidelines, could not tell students the opportunity. It had to be something to where students seen it on career services. Once we started entering that Global Student Entrepreneurship Awards competition, we was focusing on providing private tutoring for STEM education. But with the news articles and the TV interview, it shifted into, we had those companies reaching out to us and saying, hey, we would like to start planning to get these large scale events going. And so that actually made a huge shift to be able to help more kids versus trying to focus on just single tutoring sessions. But they already had staff, which allows us to bring people in and train their staff, which fits the need for growing more STEM educators, STEM education professionals in rural areas. So it was one of those hard issues to where, okay, we can start trying to focus on marketing to get that profit side of tutoring, or we can take the leap and reach an even higher scale working as a nonprofit and reach more kids at one time in centers that are already going to work with us to keep our costs low and be able to help more kids in a larger group setting.
Great, thank you.
All
So
right. Matt, you're next.
I mean, how do you feel that this $10 an hour to pay your tutors is going to work out as you scale?
As we scale with the private tutoring, it will be something that we will begin compensating for gas mileage driving, or with partnerships like the ones we would have it to where it could be at that center to kind of help allocate with that. From speaking with the Tennessee Department of Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, they have showed us grants that could help us with funding different payments. So we've already looked into that. It is something to where we are going to look into not only paying them the $10 an hour as we charge parents $20 an hour for private tutoring. The nonprofit side, we don't charge. It's something free provided. But then using some of the money that we make through, I started plant cell systems. I started all kinds of different other revenue streams, and then into raising funding that we've already begun, allocating into scholarships to go to these college students for tuition to make up on that backside of paying $10 an hour for private tutoring.
Being a STEM person and from rural West Virginia, I commend your efforts. But I do think the nonprofit might be the better angle. To Matt's question earlier, when you start looking at scalability, have you started thinking through that? Because that's one of the biggest things that when I look at early stage things, how do we scale that up? Whether it's retired people or just college students, et cetera.
So we have been working since 2020 with Sean Glentor, who's on the Tennessee board of BioTennessee and Life Science TN. And he gave me a statement of, what do you have to think long-term in order to do now to get there with scalability? So the partnerships was the first step. Scaling it really will go into, like, I believe, working with more government housing centers. In these rural areas like my hometown, these kids are riding around on their bicycles, they're getting in trouble. And so that first scalability step will be getting into more government housing centers. Our first target market is my hometown, Elizabethton, second, Cookeville, and from there we will branch as we grow. The next step of scalability is once we show Tennessee STEM Innovation Network our success, we will apply for grants to start after-school programs to work with schools and Boys and Girls Clubs.
And time.
Thank you, Pure Legacy. Next up is Elastic Anatomy. Elastic Anatomy, when you're ready.
All right. Hello, I'm Austin Marler, a junior mechanical mechatronics engineer with a deep interest in illustration, sculpting, and model making, and I am presenting Elastic Anatomy. Throughout everyday life, medical and art students and professionals deal with the immense task of studying and recalling the form and structure of the human body. For artists, much of their time representing humans involves hours of gathering reference images and struggling to articulate hard plastic figures just to picture the human form in the perfect perspective. For medical students, a sense of where muscles begin and terminate while sliding across each other while learning their names is a tremendous task. Yet, among the $55 billion industry that is the anatomical model industry, there is a severe lack of models that can replicate the motions of the human body. Many of these models are made of hard plastic and are not intended to articulate naturally. By building a small model that can replicate the muscle, fat, and skin of the human form and can add other senses, we can add other senses to the learning process and act as a vital tool to remove hours of time per week per employee in art-focused companies.
Are you done? All right. Yes. Leanna, we'll get started with you on questions.
Sure. Thanks for your presentation. One of the things that kind of jumped out to me a little bit, because you talked about it being a model, have you I know you talked about the types of materials that you might use to create something like this type of a model. Have you done any sort of prototype, or have you worked with this kind of material before? And do you know whether or not it will actually generate the types of models with the flexibility and the detail that you're describing? Do you know anything about that firsthand?
Yes, I have done a little work in the field. I have done silicone for mask making before and for gaskets and such, but it will work for what I'm intending. And I have since talked with a materials engineer who suggested using a thermoplastic for a lower cost material. I specifically chose silicone because it is used in special effects fields to replicate the same modulus of elasticity for fat, muscle, and skin. And I have done research to figure out what Shore grade of silicones are used for that.
Okay, thank you.
Along those lines, what are the costs? So, you know, if you're developing one of these models, whether it be for an artist, say an art college, or you know, for a medical school, what are we looking at in terms of cost based on the research that you've done so far?
In terms of the silicone version, we're looking at about 3 pounds of silicone, which is $12.50 per pound, whereas a thermoplastic would be 2.5 per pound. And so the entire cost we're looking at for silicone is about $70. And with the structure that is involved in injection molding for the skeletal structure. For art students, we don't need to include the full range of muscle and fat on the inside of the body. We could ignore that and only do the outside so that you get the form, the outside form from articulation. So we can remove most of that internal stuff and cut that down to about 2 or 1.5 pounds of silicone. For medical students, we need to include all of that to show the deep and exterior muscles. And
so what is that? So is that comparable to what the current models being used in terms of just measuring costs between what you would produce versus what's already on the market?
Current models are stiff or cannot articulate, but they are made from cheap hard plastics, thermoplastics, in fact. But these are not, these are approximately the same cost for the thermoplastics, but they don't meet the needs that we're searching for.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have you looked into manufacturing? Where would you get something like this manufactured?
At first, I don't expect to be able to devote a large amount of time to this, but I believe that I can set up in a shop that we have locally, set up a silicone casting small factory, and then from there I can start scaling up to injection molding for cheaper materials. The process would be slow at first, however.
So you would want to open your own manufacturing company to
Yes.
Okay.
I have the knowledge to produce such machines and design and fabricate and tweak the designs, but space and time would be the limiting factor.
All right, Matt.
I mean, so you're addressing a problem that, you know, for thousands of years, you know, people have been trying to find a better way to anatomically show the body. You know, are there any parts of the body that you feel are the most difficult, you know, for your target market? And have you considered just doing like a minimum viable product, just addressing those parts of the body as opposed to a full?
Yes, that is a very good point. One of the intents would be to specifically design the hand and wrist so that at a larger scale, so you could look at it and manipulate it and analyzing all of the muscles that exist in the forearm as they lead into the hand, as this is something that even in engineering we deal with in biomedical design. Trying to get the form correct is extremely difficult.
I agree with your, the hand is one of the most complex organs in the body. And if you could just concentrate on that one segment, then that might be something that would help artists and medical students or whoever. But in your presentation, you'd mentioned you were going to embed some, I don't know if it's nomenclatures or name tags. Can you explain how you're going to do that?
Yes, the intent was for medical students who need to know what muscles are where and what they are named scientifically, that on, say, you would see the exterior of the muscle, but once you peel it back, you could then see indented into the surface is the name of it. Just as a quick reminder.
All right, Leanna, did you have a follow-up?
Sorry. Sorry.
5 seconds.
Sorry. I don't think you'll have time to answer any question that I might ask.
And
sorry, dear.
Not a problem. Well, thank you, Elastic Anatomy. Next up is Ratchet Rats. Ratchet Rats, when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. So all my life, I grew up on a farm. During the summer months, we put up hay from sun up till sundown. We use ratchet straps to tie our hay down with. And even though I'm of taller stature and physically fit, I still find it difficult and tiresome to throw these ratchet straps. Then it dawned on me, I can't be the only one who has this issue. Truck drivers use ratchet straps every single day. And so me and my partner have developed a working model. Actually, we have built 3 prototypes. We are currently using our second prototype. Our third one is still being developed while we have built it, but we know that it can be more efficient than our second one. Our Quick Toss Pro is a mechanism that you will set into flatbed trailers, and you will place your ratchet strap into the housing, pull down the handle, and it will launch your ratchet strap over the objects on your trailer. Our next phase or step in our business is we're going to build 20 prototypes, and we're going to send those out to individual truckers and trucking companies, because we want them to test it first and then give us their feedback so we can perfect it before we mass market, which we plan to mass market to major truck stops such as Pilot, Flying J, as well as the trucking companies and individual drivers, which is about approximately 1.9 million truck drivers in the US. Our secondary customer base will also be farmers and ranchers, in which we will reach them through Tractor Supply. So Ratchet Rats is proud to present to you the Quick Toss Pro.
all right, thank you. Leanna, why don't you get us started with questions?
Great, thanks. Great presentation, guys. One of the things that I certainly understand where you're coming from with this, because my background is very similar. However, one thing that really did come to mind is the fact that you have the prototypes, I think is outstanding, but have you consulted with anyone concerning safety or any sort of liability? Because I can see where there might be some issues with this particular product regarding safety and liability. So I'm just interested to know whether or not you've contacted anyone to understand the ramifications of that.
Yes, I am actually working with a professor here at Tennessee Tech, and we're working on making this more safer, because we understand that is one of our biggest priorities. Right now, our final prototype will have the end of it to be a bright neon orange color to help like caution, be like, this is going to be an area you don't need to be in. And we've also designed a guard that will help identify where a person does not need to be in when they're launching it, to help make it as safe as possible. But I am currently working with Professor, and we're trying to make this as safe as we can get it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you for your work and your presentation. So I wanted to really, for good measure, understand, is this a product that, say, for example, you're carrying it around in the seating area of your truck, and when you're, getting ready to load and strap something down for travel, is it something that is added to the truck and, there's a setup time, or is it something that it's stationary? Once it's there, but my assumption is it's something that you would carry along with you, implement it and then begin working it. And if so, what's the weight, what's the setup time to get something like that in place?
Yes. So it's not very big. It's decently compact, so it can sit in usually the toolbox where a trucker will keep most of the ratchet straps. And it's very lightweight, so they can literally pick it up, set it in the side rails of their trailer, load the ratchet strap, launch it, and then move it to the next spot. So it's easy to do it.
And we had timed it once we started practicing it. And so we could set a ratchet strap in, throw it, and then of course, take our next ratchet strap and move it within roughly 10 to 15 seconds of moving along. So it was still a fairly quickly process.
All right, Anna.
Fantastic. Prototypes look great, guys. Great job. How do you plan on getting in touch with Flying J or Tractor Supply and securing meetings with them to try to get your products into stores?
Well, like we said before, we plan to, of course, reach out to our trucking companies and individual truck drivers. So from there, we would like to be able to have contacts, of course, work our way up through those trucking companies to get in touch with those major truck stops. And of course, we plan our first few years to just focus on the trucking industry. And so that way, once we are big in there, we will then reach out to Tractor Supply to reach any of our other customers.
Great. Thank you.
I think it's a great product, and I think you've got a really well thought out plan and model. I think my only question would be, I noticed in your presentation you were talking about the parts being, I guess like user replaceable, finding anywhere, but that's like Gillette selling you a razor handle and you using your own blades. So how are your thoughts on monetizing that customer over the lifetime?
Well, for one, like we said before, like the spring was our main concern, maybe if it wore out over time. But for us, our product is original because of the housing and the way that it is set up, specifically to be set in those rails. So those are the things that they're not going to be able to buy at local stores. The only thing we wanted to design it so that way the product itself would last for anywhere between 3 to 5 years, especially, heavy use, especially truck drivers use it every single day. And so, but we also wanted other parts to be simple. If it did wear out, we wanted, not to have to come to us to be a hassle for you, it'd be simple and easy for that. But we also, like you said, we wanted to monetize our product. So the shape, the housing that you set the ratchet strap in.
I know we're about out of time, but quickly, an old truck driver myself, it's a single tool, multiple use when you're going down through the eyes of the bed, the trailer. Would that be the way you're envisioning this, or is this I have to have a ratchet wrap for each individual eye?
No, you'd be able to just pick it up and set it into the next eye and just move it along.
All right, we can start over. We still got some time. Leanna?
Yeah, sorry, I was having some connectivity issues. One of the things, and I think it was touched on by Lamont a little bit, your materials that you're using to create this, is it aluminum? Is that what allows you to have it moved, or what is the metal material that you're using?
So the main bar that it is all connected to, that is steel, but it's hollowed out and there's holes in it, so it's very light. But we know that we plan on making it lighter by using testing with different materials. But right now it is relatively light, but we can make it lighter if we needed to. But most of it is steel, and it's still very light though.
The one thing that we did, we were sure to make aluminum was our housing, because we wanted to make sure that was
and time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ratchet Rats. Our final team today is NeuroBright Planner. NeuroBright, when you're ready.
Thank you, Michael. We believe that disabilities only become disabling when society refuses to accommodate them. That's why we created the NeuroBright Planner. My name is David Gorchoff. I'm a communications and marketing student.
And I am Peyton Womack. I am an educator and researcher, and we are the creators of the NeuroBright Planner.
The NeuroBright Planner is simple. It's a specially designed organizational tool crafted intentionally to serve the unique needs of neurodiverse learners who are often excluded from traditional planners and organizational tools. Now you might be asking, why can't neurodiverse people use traditional planners?
I'm glad you asked. During my time as an educator, I routinely accommodated for my students' individual needs when traditional material did not work for them. These small changes often left a big impact on my students' ability to succeed in school. We think of it this way: you can't build a house without the tools you need to do it and the instructional know-how to get the job done. Educational research has shown that neurodiverse learners, such as individuals with ADD, ADHD, and autism spectrum disorder, process information differently than neurotypical learners. Not wrong, but differently.
So that's why we look at the problem differently. Traditional planners typically present information in a way that is not friendly to neurodiverse learners.
With blank pages, unreadable fonts, color and contrast confusion, and a complete lack of instruction, traditional planners can be aesthetically pleasing, yet often lack the structured design elements that facilitate learning.
But the NeuroBright planner addresses these issues by designing differently. Our planner is created with the specific needs of neurodiverse learners in mind, from intentional design to providing explicit instruction on how to plan, organize, and keep track of your assignments. The NeuroBright planner works for you, because we believe that disabilities only become disabling when society refuses to accommodate them.
Thank you. And we have a prototype.
Hey, thank you for your time and your effort. So my wife taught in the public school system, and obviously having children myself, if in these instances where IEPs are done for potential learning disabilities, I know you had mentioned the college environment, but have you talked to me about, for example, if there's an issue identified during an IEP in a public school setting where you're trying to not make a disability be life-threatening. So if you start the pipeline early with these planners, have you looked at your elementary schools, your grade schools, as a way to test out and prove out your concept with this NeuroBright planner?
Yeah, so I'm actually a K through 5th certified teacher. I tested out this idea with other elementary teachers and asked them what design concepts were important at that elementary level. With NeuroBright, we would like to design other products that would serve elementary students. However, our area of specialty at the moment is college students, because we've been able to work with college students, show them this process of planning, and see how it efficiently changes their success in school. However, designing elements for K through 5th in that early intervention, of course, would be an interest of mine and would be something that we would be interested in the future.
Thank you for your question.
Peyton, David, fantastic job. Talk to me about cost per planner. Have you secured any funding so far? It looks like, you do have a prototype. So kind of what are we looking at cost-wise?
Okay, so I have this, and this is just going to break it down a little bit, but we printed it locally, and it costs $23 to produce the large planner, the 2 smaller planners, and we want to sell them for $40. But for college students, we want to give them a discount because we understand that might be a price range that would not be motivating for them, and that'd be $40 as a bundle. So we want to give 5 off to college students. If they want to buy this individually, the monthly one would be $20, the weekly would be $10, and the daily would be $10 as well.
Thanks for your question, Anna.
So, I love the idea. I definitely see the need that it fills. Have you thought about, instead of the paper product, which I haven't bought a planner since the 90s, of making an app, and that way you can address the different fonts and a little bit of motion and animation, the different colors. Because I'm just thinking, like, to use your planner successfully, I need to carry this paper planner with me and then a pack of colored pens or pencils.
Of course, yeah. So we considered the app option, but an app kind of presents those same barriers that a traditional planner would present. So the closed format of the app can make you subconsciously put that away and never have it again. We've designed the planners to fit pretty neatly on your desk, but however, if you wanted to bring like one of the weekly planners with you, say you're going to school and you need to have a quick glance, or you're in class and you want to go ahead and write something down on this to prioritize, you're able to do that. We just felt like an app would still kind of serve more of a neurotypical population, whereas also writing down and in the use of color helps with memorization and visual processing as well.
Well, Matt, that was a great question because that was mine. The next thing that I would like to know then is, since you've addressed the app question, how do you protect this? Since this is a piece of paper you know, and there's a lot of work to it, but if I take that and go to Kinko's or FedEx or somebody and have it copied, how do you protect that? Have you filed patents, or is it patentable, and how do you protect yourself?
Sure. So thanks for that question, David. We plan on marketing it online. So an Etsy store, Amazon store, things like that. When we're presenting the image that someone would be looking at, we're going to have that copyrighted, as well as it has a watermark on it, so that you can't just take a screenshot of your computer and go and copy your own, right? Now, when it is in circulation in a store, we don't have a way to accurately protect that from being photocopied. Just as anybody, if I buy a book, I can go photocopy it, right? But we are interested in learning more about that topic for sure. That is a question that we have. So thanks for that question.
Hi, my name is Lena. One of the things that occurred to me when I was looking at your presentation, even though I know you guys are filling a specific need for a specific group of individuals that have a certain handicap or a learning disability, what I wondered was, I know you've had some folks that you've used this with yourselves, college students and so forth, but how much market research have you done to see how much you would really appeal to a group, or a group would use, that specific group would use your product?
I think it's a combination of my background as an educator and researcher. So some of my interests in research do include autism and autism spectrum disorder. So understanding that population and what they need. We largely saw this need through our friends, of course, being neurodiverse learners in college, but also through social media. People were expressing their frustration of like, they could not succeed in school, and it wasn't their ability to do the assignments, it was the hidden curriculum of planning. So a lot of our market research really came through conversations with friends and engagement on social media.
Hey, yeah, one last thing I'll throw out there with the last few seconds is the fact that it sounds like you're becoming a thought leader, just doing training conferences, showing that that is a methodology that you could use to train someone, maybe a revenue source as well.
Thank you.
Hi. So congratulations to all of our teams. Thank you so much, judges. The judges are going to go on a breakout room for about 20 minutes and deliberate to determine who the winners are going to be. During that time, we're going to have a fireside chat with Jeff Brown and Dr. Andrew Johnson. Jeff, I will turn it over to you to introduce our guest speaker.
Thanks, Michael. Good job, teams. So in our work at the Biz Foundry, we've laughed a lot over the last 7 years that sometimes we just get really lucky. So one of our best mentors and probably the most regarded patent attorney in this area, we met through a chance meeting, and I stalked him as he came from California. So over the last few months, I met this gentleman. He actually is a new ophthalmologist at Eye Centers of Tennessee, which one of my best friends is the CEO of. And so Dr. Johnson, I'll let him tell you a little more about himself, but so he came to Cookeville. He is the story of the guy that started a company in college, raised money, exited. Now, it was a little engineering school. If you guys know Dr. Canfield at Tennessee Tech, it is the only other engineering school that he recognizes, by the way, of Georgia Tech. So according to Dr. Canfield, there's only Tennessee Tech and Georgia Tech are the only two engineering schools in the Southeast, by the way. So
which I totally disagree with. You got to add one more to that.
But anyway, so there's Georgia Tech at UT. So he has more of a story that his dad is actually a football coach at Tennessee Tech now. So it's an interesting story. And so we were talking, and so I want him to speak specifically to the students. What we want you guys to do at the Biz Foundry is at the end of this competition, whether you win, lose, or draw, is we want you to really keep going. We want to make this real. It's not just the competition. And so Andrew is the perfect model of what we're talking about. So I tell him I'll call him Dr. Johnson in front of patients, but can I call him Andrew on something like this?
Right.
So Andrew, tell me the story of, kind of, we talked a lot about earlier at lunch one day about you're a student at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Start telling them the same story you told me.
Yeah. So for me, it all started out when I was actually in medical school. I had gone to University of Georgia and done biomedical engineering, and finishing second year of medical school. One of my good friends from engineering, who was 2 years younger than me, had an idea and came up to me and said, well, what do you think of this? And I was like, well, I think it's pretty good. What have you pursued much of it? And he was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to, and that kind of thing. And so we kind of just sat down and said, well, why not? But at this point, he was still in school. He was actually getting his MBA when this all came about. And I was finishing second year medical school when I was taking a year off of med school to get my MBA, take a year off. And so we just said, hey, let's just go for this thing.
So we have this discussion a lot that with a lot of my mentors and board members is we're all expected to know what we want to do for the rest of our life when we're 20 years old and haven't seen any of the world. And so, talk about that a little bit because you also played football at Georgia.
I did,
so,
yeah.
some of the things we hear about being too busy to work on this, I think you might be an example that, you're not that busy.
Well,
because you played football, got a degree in bioengineering.
Yeah, I was bioengineering,
Then started the medical school. So talk about that a little bit, what you and I talked about, that, I'm 58 and still haven't figured out what I want to do when I grow up, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I feel like it's kind of just a continual learning opportunity. You never have to have it figured out. And I think that's something that's preached early on, that you need to kind of figure out what you want to do and what you want to be at all times. And I just don't really think that's very practical. And I'm a typical example of that, because I did engineering because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
You're good at math.
That's right.
So
I could do math. I knew math, and I knew I liked science. So I was like, well, I'm just being an engineer.
So you did not start to the University of Georgia planning on getting a medical degree?
Absolutely not. No, that was honestly, it was a last case thing. It was like, well, I really don't know what I want to do for sure. And so I'll apply to medical school and see what happens. I knew I enjoyed the surgery side of things. I had a lot of exposure to it, especially through football, and we had a lot of good team doctors that I was exposed to, and I enjoyed that aspect of care for people. And so that's what appealed to me. But then kind of during med school, I was like, man, I don't know if I really do like this. So just sitting down, because there's no more math, it's all just memorize this list. And that's another reason I was really excited when my buddy came up to me, because I didn't know if I was even going to become a doctor, practicing medicine. I was kind of debating that. And, and luckily I'd already set up the MBA thing to kind of give, figure some things out. And it just, the way that I guess the Lord really timed it out was perfect. So it was a great
Georgia, so it's interesting. He also married a college athlete. So I'm going to say you don't want to get in in the neighborhood softball game against these two.
Yeah.
They're probably pretty competitive. But again, we talked a little bit about, Georgia has a pretty big engineering school. Over the last 20 years, they've actually got into the innovation business a little better than they probably were. Because again, everybody thinks Georgia Tech and the state of Georgia for innovation. And, and so what did you get exposed to in college when you guys started working on this idea? Tell us what the track was like, right?
Well, the track for me was, I was really thankful for my engineering degree, because the design process that you go through in engineering, really what most of your degree is about in engineering, with all of your, who are your stakeholders, et cetera, that's the whole process that you end up going through as a startup company. And okay, who am I actually appealing to? Except you think about it not just from solving a problem, but solving a customer. And that's really the paradigm shift for me that I got exposed to, is it doesn't matter if you don't have a customer. You can have the best idea. You think it's the best idea in the world. You designed something, invented something, but if there's not an end use case, someone that's willing to pay money for that, you don't have a business.
You mean just because it works in the lab doesn't mean everybody wants to buy it?
That's right. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Shocking.
That's
right.
That's right. So that's one thing that proved it's more challenging than you really think to get that first customer and have someone who, hey, I'll pay money for this, and then move forward. Then you can actually say you have a company.
So yeah, you just explained why I've asked you to start mentoring and help working with the students, by the way. But I don't know that I ever even asked, what actually was your product? What was your company? I don't even, you fit the story so well, I didn't really even care. Right?
Yeah, no, so it started out, we did basically reflective pulse oximetry. This was back in 2010 is when we kind of got rolling. So before Apple Watch and all that. So essentially, we came up actually with some patents, and that's one of the first things we did was start a provisional patent, which I'm really glad we did that. And it was not as expensive as you'd think, because being engineers, we wrote it ourselves. And so that we had a patent attorney, we just wrote it ourselves. We found a boilerplate and took it to the patent attorney, and it was like a couple $100 to do a provisional patent. Right, exactly. And then you have your place in line from that point on, without having to have the 10 grand, that it takes to do a real patent. So what we did was we actually solved that problem and built sensors and everything, a reflective pulse oximeter, where instead of having to put it on your finger, you could put it other places on the body, and it actually give you the waveform showing your blood oxygen levels, which now it's starting to become more mainstream. And then the product kind of morphed through our time. And that's something you go with the design process. Well, we started out, well, this is what we're doing. We did invent that. Well, then where else can we apply it? With your market. And we were both athletes. I have a bunch of friends in the NFL, and my wife's friends and a bunch of professional athletes. So we kind of used that, leveraged those connections, and went down the athletic side of things first, and was able to really kind of market and work on that, which is a great experience. And then pivoted more toward healthcare after that. And actually the things that the Apple Watch does now, like fall detection and all that, we actually had already solved that problem back in, I guess it was around 2013, 2014 is when we actually had that in our software system. So pretty a lot of fun.
So you guys went through the process of raising money, right? The Shark Tank. Right?
Yep.
Everybody watches Shark Tank, and then they come to the Biz Foundry a year later and think in 30 minutes, investors are going to write them a check, right? So, because that's how the show works.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's only an hour.
It's that
so,
easy. That's right.
It's that easy. They don't show the 5 years behind the scenes. But so tell the students about that process. What was it like from your side of the fence? I'm assuming you had not grown up around venture capitalists or any of those kind of things. When your dad's a football coach, he'd make a great venture capitalist, though. He's an offensive line coach, right?
I guess making 30 grand a year or whatever it is, that we did growing up. So what you really learn is connections matter. You need to be talking to everybody. And at first you're scared about, well, I don't want someone stealing my idea. Well, if you don't talk about it, it's never going to actually become an idea. And so you have to kind of put that, you have to protect yourself with non-disclosures and things like that, but you can't be afraid to pitch your product and to be willing to talk to anybody and everybody, because you never know where these connections are going to lead. And especially as an engineer, and my buddy being an engineer, you're not naturally the most extroverted people as an engineer. There's a reason why we enjoyed math, right? Because it's not a collaborative environment. It's sit down and you solve a problem, but you kind of have to get out and force yourself to get in some uncomfortable social situations for yourself. Maybe go in and a bunch of people, talk in front of a lot of people, and eventually you meet somebody who knows somebody, and they know somebody, and meet with them. And the number of meetings that we took was just, I can't even count, before we even took a check, it was just an unbelievable number.
Right. And then you get the meetings, and in 10 minutes they throw you out. Right. Yep. And then so it is a process. That's what I tell everybody. It is not like going to the bank, filling out an application, and they call in 3 days and say yes or no. That's not what raising capital is like.
That's right.
We tell people the really good companies are going to spend 15 to 18 months. If you're really ready, it still takes a year.
Oh, yes.
So how long did it take you guys to raise money from your initial?
Ours, because of connections, it was probably about 8 months to a year-ish.
Oh, wow.
From when we started.
You almost cut it in half from average.
Yeah, it was a decent timeline. But
still very painful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it was more just, again, it's just meeting people who know people and know people. And we're, fortunate to get to meet those connections who set us up with people and kind of get into that situation and then continue to make things happen.
So tell us about it, that there were 2, 3, 4 of you when you actually, once you started, you kind of raised money and really started the ability to
then
actually build something.
That's right. So the way we did it, because we were doing a hardware, we were able to get kind of a basic prototype together, my buddy and I, and with some of our friends with us, but it was mainly just he and I. And then we took that and we found a big electrical engineer who did a lot of he was a contractor essentially, but had done a lot in the electronic space, and we're in Atlanta. And he took it then and helped us get to the next step. And then again, just through connections, actually through one of the incubators, we met some guys and just met a really, really smart programmer and electrical engineer who helped take us to get an even better prototype and move on. And another thing is deadlines. So that's another thing that you really don't understand when you're taking funds, that really starts the clock for the returns.
Yes.
And so it's tempting at first just to take any dollar that comes at you, right? But then as soon as you start taking money, that clock starts ticking. And then there's some
That's
extra
why they call
pressures.
them investors, not
That's right.
donors.
That's
right?
exactly right.
Yeah.
They're investors, not. That's exactly right. And that completely changes the business process and the development process and timelines. And so that's something that if I was doing it again, I would really consider is, okay, well, is it the right time for this amount of money? And do I need this amount of money right now? Can I get away with less to then get to the next step? Because then that buys you more time. And those are some questions that you just, when you're first going through it, you really aren't thinking those things. You just want to make it happen and don't really have the whole thing.
One of the things we run into a lot, and it's not just really technical entrepreneurs, but is too much advice from the wrong people.
That's right.
Did you guys go through that?
Absolutely.
People telling you, oh, do this, and you go down that rabbit hole for a few weeks or months, and then like, oh my God, that was stupid, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. It's gonna happen.
And everybody's well intentioned. I'm not saying they're
no, absolutely.
But when somebody finds out you're starting a company, it's like everybody you ever speak to knows how to start a company, right?
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. And so I guess
I still get that as an eye surgeon. Anyone who I had something with my eye. Family members for me.
It's human
That's
nature,
right.
I guess.
That's right.
I don't know. But that's some of the advice we give to students is just really, get great mentors, people who don't necessarily have any financial interest, but get advice from people who are just really trying to help you, not necessarily make a lot of money and those kind of things, and then take everybody's advice and decide what you should follow. Don't follow it all. So I'm trying to remember the story correctly. So then you guys actually exited in what year?
So it would have been, we kind of divulged, and that's part of the successes and failures. We did have sales, we did some good things, but that goes back to that timeline. We didn't quite meet where we needed to go. And so we made a decision to sell off our IP and all that kind of stuff. And so that happened in, I guess it was probably 2017 or 18, something like that.
Okay.
About 4 or 5 years ago.
And we talked about, I guess you were getting ready to start your residency.
Yeah, I was in residency at that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you can't run a startup and do a residency.
Well, you could. It goes back to, you can do a lot of things when it just takes time and there has to be sacrifices made.
We're doing a residency. There's not a whole lot of, once
extra
you
time.
sleep, there's
That's
not
right.
a lot of extra hours
That's right.
in the day, right?
That's right.
So,
no, there's not. So that really definitely impacted kind of some of the decision making as things were moving on, but it was still learned a ton, and it was still definitely worth it. And especially, just all that you learned and what you can kind of convey to other people from what you've been through. And because like you said, I went literally from just a sketch all the way through creating something, making sales and all that. And I think that was also a challenging thing you don't really expect is the sales process.
Yeah.
Because it goes from one thing, okay, I know all about my product and what it can do, but I have to teach someone else the exact same knowledge I have, and they're going to represent me when they go to a customer. And that's a whole
other ballgame. Because they're, number one, they don't know it from start to finish like you did, but also they probably don't have the passion and all those things. So that's part of building a team that we talk about a lot, is that's a lot of times a lot harder than people think.
It is.
So, we go with the hire slow, fire fast, right? So make sure that you really get those people, because we see that a lot. That can be a really crash point for people. You just hired the wrong people and spent a lot of the money you just raised.
That's right.
And
we definitely went through some of that. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. No one is, it'd be great to bat 1,000, but
I've never
very
been anyone
unlikely.
that did, right? So what would you tell these aspiring students that are at this point? They're kind of where you were probably coming out of your undergrad. A lot of these are juniors and seniors. There's some you can have a complete freshman in EagleWorks. So what would you give them as just your overall advice? One that's been there, done it, and also who chose, by the way, to stay in a small town in the South. You didn't want to go to, you never had any intentions of going to Silicon Valley or New York, right?
No. Well, we are in a unique situation because I was in Georgia and Atlanta's right there. And then we had a lot of resources in Atlanta. So I was even in medical school, I'd finish my clinicals, like 5 o'clock and just drive to Atlanta at 5 o'clock and to be at Atlanta Tech Village and do pitches and meet people. And it was pretty involved. And so one big thing I would say is don't give up on it real easily, just because maybe, okay, I can become an engineer, I can come out making whatever, being a chemical engineer or whatever you're doing for your degree. It doesn't mean you have to give up on an idea, and it doesn't mean you ever have to stop. Even me now in my position as a physician, I'm still, this might be, one day I have a little book next to my computer.
Get your little idea.
I do.
Book, right?
If I think of something, I write it down, and and you don't have to give up and let things die just because you even follow say a salaried career path per se. Things change, and we did talk about this where when take advantage of when you're younger, because you don't have the same responsibilities, especially financially. So you can take some risks that might be worth it. Would I have done the same risks now? There's no way.
Not with 3 children.
Not with 3 kids and the job that I have. Right. I'm not going to pack that up, and put that amount of time and effort into the idea, but at the time, I'm so glad I did it, and I'd totally do it again. And I would encourage anybody I can to follow the same path. And you just never know what can happen. And again, do not be afraid to talk to people about it. Again, that was something that was really scary for us because we were so scared someone's going to steal our idea. But again, if you never get it off the ground, then what's it even worth?
So we work with, through the 7 entrepreneur centers across the state, I guess all of us combined work with 3,000 or 4,000 startups a year. And to my knowledge, in 7 years since I've been doing this, there's not been a true idea stolen. And the other thing we try to teach people, if it's a good idea, it's going to get copied.
Right. That's right.
Right. Because people don't copy bad ideas.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And that's something I'd actually written down a couple of things. That's one thing I'd written down to tell everybody is if it's a good idea, you're going to have competition.
Right.
If you do not have any competition in your space, that tells you it might not be the best idea.
Nobody cares.
Because no one cares about that. Who's your end? Again, back to a customer. As an engineer, you're not always thinking about those things, but in business, that's what you realize and need to think about.
Yeah. So at Dr. Canfield that I talked about, and I teach I-Core at Tech. And so, you custom wrote this speech for us, right? This talk for us, teaching the I-Core program, because it is really hard to get people who haven't been on that side of the fence. And so you're living proof that you live through customer discovery.
That's right.
As an engineer.
You do. It's literally
a medical student, all
right.
those things.
That's
And
right.
I loved what you said about you started, one of the things that trying to break out of maybe being a bit of an introvert, you're probably very comfortable talking to other athletes.
That's right.
So you found a little easier path. And again, sometimes it doesn't all have to be horrible.
That's right.
You're still going to have to get out of your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
but you found something a little more comfortable to work. You got to that point
Right.
that you could talk to almost anybody. So that's another thing we want people to think about. All right. Any last words of advice? I think the judges are ready and they're ready to give checks away.
No,
So-
the fact that y'all are here doing this, I think is really great. And you're already showing a lot of initiative, and I just say, keep it up. What I've heard so far, a lot of great ideas, and just keep it going.
All right. Thanks, guys. We're going to send it back to Michael, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dr. Johnson and Jeff, thank you so much. The one thing about EagleWorks, I'm always with the judges, so I really look forward to hearing the fireside chat afterwards. So again, thank you all so much for providing that address. So now is the time we've all been waiting for. We've got over $20,000 in awards to award. And if for those of you all don't know, those are actually awarded as a scholarship. So that's pretty great. And again, thank you so much to all of our donors and alumni that have provided the funding for those awards. We truly couldn't do it without you. So with that said, let's get right into it. We have several awards to announce today. So first of all is the Rural Reimagined Award. So the Rural Reimagined is our university's grand challenge that seeks to address societal issues in rural areas. So we like to say that we want to solve problems through examining and harnessing science, technology, innovation, and economic development. And through that, through the Eagle Works competition, we also have this award, and it is worth $2,500. $1,500 of that will go as a scholarship, and then another $1,000 of that will be the equivalency of technical assistance from the Center for Rural Innovation, which Andrea and I co-lead. And winning the Rural Reimagined Award this year is Pure Legacy Future Innovators. Congratulations, Pure Legacy. Golf claps. Next up is the Klaus Elrod Foundation Awards. And those are 3 awards. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Will Klaus, who this is actually his foundation. So Will, if you could give us a few words and announce your award winners, that would be great.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you very much. We're very much interested in the entrepreneurship spirit, and especially in developing the next Mavericks and so forth, like you guys are. So we are very pleased to have the opportunity to be a part of this event. I think this is our 6th or 7th year to be a part of this. A little bit about me. I'm a professor emeritus from Vanderbilt University, 40 years, founder and president of Matrix Systems Incorporated, 1981, founder and president of Klaus Associates, 1975, and the Klaus Elrod Foundation, 2011. So we have been involved in new idea generation since day one. These 3 awards are named after my mother and father and my families and so forth. A little bit of connection. The Shipley Farm at Tennessee Tech is part of my old family Bucks Farm. So part of that farm was owned by my grandmother's side of the Klaus Elrod family. And in early 1900s, my mother and father lived in Cookville. They were kids, 7 and 8 and 6 and 5 years old. And separately, their families moved to Manchester, Tennessee. And you know how they moved? Covered wagon. So you're talking about 2 people and they grew up in Coffee County and then married. Talking about 2 people who were inventors and creators. My mother and father, they had to be, otherwise they couldn't live. And my grandfather used to cut logs in the Cookville area, float them down the Caney Fork to the Common River and into Nashville. And you know how he got back home? Walked. So we are part of a generation that believes in creativity, entrepreneurship, innovation, and so forth. So I'm going to start off by talking about Linda just for a minute. We have 3 awards. One is creativity, one is innovation, and one is social entrepreneurship. Linda, I read your proposal, and you are right on target to one of the major social issues of our day and time. So we would like to award to you the Klaus Elrod Foundation Social Entrepreneurship Award. So congratulations on that. I also run the old family Klaus Elrod farm in Manchester, and we have a bed and breakfast there. It only occurs once a year. It's quite different from yours. It's called Bonnaroo.
Yes.
A little humor, okay.
I'm actually from Coffee County.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's called Bonnaroo. It's a little different from your standpoint. And then, of course, Cece, where are you? Raise your hand.
We're here.
Oh, okay, good show, big guy. We just read recently that, I don't know, the year 2050 or something like that. Michael and I both would still be alive at that time. But 2050, the ocean is going to have by weight more plastic than they do fish. So we want you to receive the Virgie Klaus Elrod Creativity Award. It's named after my mother, Virgie Elrod Klaus. So congratulations, okay?
Thank you, sir.
And then Elastic Anatomy. We want you to receive the Robert O. Klaus Innovation Award. We believe that that's a very good piece of work. And one of my other careers, I was in biochemistry in the Department of Biochemistry in the College of Medicine at Vanderbilt. So we know a lot about the early development of the field of biochemistry in this particular area. So we're very pleased to award these, Michael. We hope this is okay. I also saw on there, Brandon, are you still on? Hey, man. Brandon won one of our awards, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, back in 2019 is the Will Klaus
You
is
still
the
got
Maverick
it?
Award. Oh, I keep it on my desk.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I keep it on my desk right here.
That's the Will Klaus Maverick Award. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of this, and congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.
All right, Will, thank you so much. We really appreciate your continued support as always. And again, those are $500 scholarships going to each of those teams. So congratulations, teams. And now, what everybody's been waiting for, we're going to announce the third, second, and first place winners. So without further ado, third place is Pure Legacy Future Innovators. Third place will win $2,500 scholarship. So again, congratulations, Pure Legacy. Then in second place, coming in at a $5,000 scholarship, none other than NeuroBright. Congratulations, NeuroBright.
Thank you.
And finally, what we've all been waiting for, the first place winner who will receive a $10,000 scholarship. Again, that's a $10,000 scholarship going to Ratchet Rats. So Ratchet Rats, congratulations. You are our EagleWorks 2021 first place winner. So with that said, all teams, whether you place first or you placed not at all, it doesn't matter. What we want you to do here at EagleWorks and at Tennessee Tech, we want you to continue to work on your innovations and continue to compete in EagleWorks and go out and do amazing and great things. And we've got your back every step of the way, whether that be you work with Andrea and I, you work with the Biz Foundry, the Small Business Development Center. The economic development and entrepreneurship ecosystem is alive and well here in the Upper Cumberland. We're here to help you all. We want to help you with the technical assistance, help you get to the next, to your next steps. Also, the judges are preparing feedback for each of you as well to think about and really think about how you want to iterate and grow. So again, congratulations to everybody. This has been the 2021 EagleWorks competition. With that said, we'll go ahead and close the competition. Thank you for joining and have a wonderful afternoon. Anybody that has won a scholarship, please stay on the line and we'll see you next time.
We going back in there? Okay. Whew.